I'm just gonna ask questions. So how did you get involved in your show? I know you didn't really want to talk, so I'm putting it all on you.
Yeah, thank
That's
you.
great.
You plucked me out. Well, I was at home with my baby, who was like 9 months old, and I sort of didn't want to work, but I read the script, which was the pilot of our show was so brilliant, and the role was really, really like exciting and multi-dimensional, and I was like, I want to try to get this job. So I put myself on tape
at home,
in my
like
living room. At home, my
living room.
husband was my reader.
Nice.
Was your baby crying? Was your baby like just hanging out there?
She was hanging out somewhere. She took a nap, I think.
Perfect
She's not
timing.
crying in the background, thank God. And yeah, you know, when you put yourself on tape for something, it's particularly strange because you're like sending it out into the ether.
Right. You have no idea.
No idea.
Yeah.
And so I was
Did you do
like,
it with the phone?
no, we have a camera
real
that
camera.
has a decent camera.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know,
iPhones shoot a good, but just
That's
not
interesting.
this is
The
an
phones can
advertisement.
But the
shoot a good
sound
thing.
is probably like, they
That's
can probably
true.
hear the reader more than they can hear you with the phone.
That's a good point. Yeah.
What if you
I
hold
mean,
your
whenever
own
you
phone?
self-tape, there's
So
a
you
lot
put
of,
yourself on tape, like
Literally
selfie tape.
Selfie
That's
tape.
bananas.
There you
I'ma
go.
do that.
Selfie tape.
I have a bad attitude anytime anybody, I have a bad attitude, period. But anytime anybody asks me to put something on tape, I'm thinking, you don't fucking think enough of me to have me come in
Be
there.
there with you with that.
Well, they were in New York and I was in LA, and it wasn't an offer, but I wanted
Right.
the job. So
But you were willing to go to that length. Yeah.
And get away from that crying
Yeah,
baby.
babies will make you do like some.
There's, for
Yeah.
me though, it's nothing worse than being at, you know, they ask you, you know, to put yourself on tape and, you know, you haven't done it. I just recently had this happen. I'm not going to mention the project, but you see how I'm feeling about
I
it?
see I see it.
But, you know, the role wasn't necessarily something that was really different from anything that I've played, but they really wanted me to be on tape, and I wanted to be part of this franchise. So I put myself on tape. I was directing in Atlanta, so I had to take away from what I was doing, and they offered it to someone
Oh,
that
after
didn't
you've
put
done the
themselves
tape.
on tape.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Then you
Yeah.
show up
but
to
that
set
happens.
and just shut it down.
That
Yeah.
happens, that
Yeah,
happens
that's
all the time.
It does.
And
but you
I
know-
will call them out. I will say exactly what the projects were because I had to go through this dialogue and dialogue and dialogue, and I'm going, really? And this guy hadn't been around long enough to hire one of his friends,
Right.
which he did.
Yeah.
Right,
And
right,
I
right.
thought, motherfucker,
Yeah, man.
excuse my language, kind of.
I like putting things down.
Chris? What
Me?
about you?
No, man. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've definitely done that. I mean, I've definitely been at home, and I guess one of the things I like about it is I can set up the camera, and I can also I can tape the lines up, you know. And nobody, I'm there alone.
That's smart.
Yeah, right.
I've never done that
I'm there
before.
all alone, so I can just, you know, nobody has any idea that I'm actually just reading the
Wall.
That's
the
annoying.
script. Now, on the
Idiot
other
that
hand,
always
it's never
on it.
worked for me, and every time I've done that, I've never gotten the job. So maybe they're on to me, but that's what I've tried. Yeah.
Well, what made you choose this project?
This project, again, sort of goes back to what Jonathan was saying, but you know, I read the script. I thought it was extraordinarily fascinating. Certainly a subject matter that hadn't really been explored before. This whole hacking network, taking down a conglomerate type situation, I thought was very fascinating. And I thought, you know, I did really like the character. But you know, every time you do get involved with something, it's a risk. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. So, but I sat down with Sam Esmail, the creator, and Chad Hamilton, the producer, and liked them. And you know, you just sort of every time you get involved with something, it's sort of that leap of faith situation, and you sort of hope for the best. And in this particular circumstance, which is rare, you know, things seem to go somewhat well. Which is,
Did you know what your arc would be? Did you have
I
a really
did.
strong idea of where you're going?
I did because, well, I had like an instinct about the character. When I first read the pilot, my instinct was, is this guy really there? You know, I really I felt like I was very suspicious about that. So when I sat down with Sam, he said, do you really want to know? And I said, yes. And he gave me the whole storyline of the whole first season. I mean, I'm fortunate enough right now to be in the situation where I'm working with somebody who is just so remarkably prepared and has really just thought the whole thing through, probably like Vince Gilligan.
Well,
I can only imagine.
and I'll do this really quick. I was going to say, you know, because I've been doing this now for Mike, for the character Mike, for several years.
Yeah.
But when they said, do you want to do Better Call Saul? And it was something, there are things from Breaking Bad to Call Saul that you'll see an ashtray that's broken, that has a meaning. They'll run the chance of seeing that 5 years later,
Yes.
that to tie it in.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had said to Vince at one point, whatever has happened to Mike has to do with his son. And when they talked to me about doing Better Call Saul, they said, well, do you remember when you talked about your son, that Mike's soul was lost back then? I said, yeah. I mean, I never had a hesitation about doing this character again. I love this character.
Yeah, me too.
We
No,
do
it's
too. I was
it's,
gonna say
I mean, it's incredible. Yeah, but that is that kind of insight and level of preparation, and I mean, what a fantastic thing.
They're such good guys.
Yeah.
They're such good guys. I mean, for years, I mean, you feel like you hit, because this is my 50th year since I got my first paycheck.
Yeah.
And
Congratulations.
just for living that long.
Oh, man.
But
Amazing.
but it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to go to work. And I mean, I wasn't quite prepared for that.
Right.
Where, because I can be a real crank, and I'm going.
Not you.
No way. I don't see it.
And anyway, yeah, enough. I'm sorry.
So it's still fun, though. It's still fun.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And it is like a miracle
Oh,
when
my
you get to
God.
be involved with a character
Oh,
like
my
that.
God.
It's like, are you kidding me?
For me, it's interesting. I have a very simplistic, complicated process. I read my script and I highlight all my lines and in yellow. And then I highlight what people say about my character in blue. And then I highlight what the writer says about my character in pink. Because, and the blue and the pink highlights are much more important than the yellow highlights. Because I realized for myself in real life that it's not so much what you think about yourself or what you mean by your actions, but how people perceive your actions and what you're trying to do. So I think what people say about you is much more important than what you think and what you say about yourself. So if I read something and, you know, my character says something that comes across in a nice way, but then the other character is like answering to his snide asshole remark, it's like, oh, that completely changes the way I would say that.
Yeah, your interpretation.
You
of
know?
it. Yeah, sure.
So I try to come at it from that perspective. It's very difficult playing an actual person as opposed to a fictional person. And that's a whole, like, conundrum. That's a whole can of worms that, you know, with this movie, with All the Way, playing such a legendary figure like Martin Luther King, it was very important to not try and be Martin Luther King, because I'm 5'11", 190 pounds, and he was 5'7", 190 pounds. You know, so there was no way I could be him. I couldn't look like him, so I could only try and capture the essence of him. And that's what was really important to me, was that essence, that tangible idea of who he was and what he was trying to achieve. You know, so that's basically where my character came from with that.
And you were great.
Blue, pink, and yellow
You know,
outline.
at some
That's straight up Stanislavski.
no, they didn't have markers, for Christ's sake.
You're right. They didn't have monitors back then.
You were great. And, you know, at some point, you and I, away from all this, I'll talk. I grew up in D.C., and I was in D.C. the night that he was assassinated and the city burned. And the absolute horrible pain of all that was involved in that. And that minimizes it by me even trying to put words to it. But we'll talk sometime if you're interested.
No, I'm all ears. It's interesting how the movie starts with the assassination of Kennedy, you know, and LBJ being thrust into this position and his longing to be legitimized. You know, this project is weird because it started as a play. You know, and
Did you see the play? Did you?
I did.
You did? Yeah,
I did.
I did too.
And I wanted to be a part of the play. And you know, Cranston is just so transformative and condescending with his acting. He shouldn't be that good. It's very condescending. You know, you watch him, it's like, oh, you're doing that, now fuck you. You know, it's very, to other actors, it's very offensive. But he's really amazing and humble with his approach to the craft. So seeing him on stage and then seeing it in person, him being able to pull it back from performing for 1,100 people as opposed to performing to one person, it's really, really remarkable to see and be a part of.
I wish the way I prepared was as interesting as that. Oh,
We'll get your
God.
own markers.
Yeah, maybe like orange.
We'll get an orange.
Yeah.
Purple.
Purple.
See,
But
that's too dark.
it'd be like
Distracting.
lavender. It
Lavender.
might need
That's
to be
pretty.
lavender.
I like
Kind
that.
of like
Me too.
Easter colors.
I love lavender. So much. Smell, the color, the whole
Just
thing.
everything about
Yeah,
it.
Everything
you know?
about lavender.
Oh,
you know.
lavender, I love it. Yeah.
It relaxes
Yeah,
you.
it does. It's very soothing.
I think I'm kind of like most actors with my preparation. I feel like I build a backstory, even though it's not necessarily on the page or a scene or part of the play. But I always build a backstory where I thought she went to school. Did she even go to school? Did she go to college? You know, how did the people that are part of her family or friends, how did they meet? I build all
She
of
or
that.
he. Don't limit yourself.
Don't limit myself.
She or
Right.
he.
You're right. You're right. I haven't played a he yet.
Whole world
but
of possibilities.
Whole world. That's on my bucket list. To play a man.
Reginald.
Huge challenge.
It'd be a huge
You.
Hey, but you know what?
imagine.
It would be an awesome challenge. It would be an awesome challenge. But no, I do. I build a backstory, and if I have if I'm playing a role where it's a lot of the work that I'm doing is a two-hander, I will build the backstory with that actor. In American Crime, Andre Benjamin and I had a lot of scenes, so we went to dinner a couple of times and decided we met each other at Northwestern and just created this whole backstory of who our parents were, and that's fun to me. That's part of the excitement of what we do.
Except for when you get an actor that don't read the script.
Ooh.
And it's like, come on, dog.
You get
Just
an actor who doesn't read the
Or
script.
doesn't understand what they're saying.
right. I'm gonna just
Because they
write
always
your
forget their
backstory and give it
lines.
to you, and just keep that in your script. Just
Yeah.
read over that before we shoot.
Right. Yeah.
I think there's I find that I prepare differently depending on, if it's television, film, or theater. Like, because I feel like with television, the unique thing about it is that you're working so fast. So, you're getting this material, and then you have, a few days to sort of prepare it. And so I find that, like, the way that you need to be ready with the language, and I just lock myself in a room and try to imagine the other side of the conversation as much as I can. Like, not just what I'm saying, but like the depth of the language of the other person, so that I can have a response to it that's in the moment of shooting it, but that I can sort of be prepared for wherever it may go, because there's no time for rehearsing or trying this or trying, it's like the
That's
schedule
kind of
is so
fun, though,
fast.
too.
Oh, it's super
Yeah.
fun, and amazing things can happen in that in that compression, but you need to be prepared for it. Like, you need to be prepared for the crunch of there being no
I
rehearsal.
did Law and Order once, and I was like, why would anyone do TV? This is the craziest. This is a job. Like, this is why I quit McDonald's. Why am I doing this?
Yeah, you
You
didn't
know?
quit McDonald's. Let's be honest. about it.
They decided I needed other career aspirations, but that was just because I liked the chicken nuggets.
But I also find, like, sometimes with some scenes, like I did it in The Leftovers, I had this 8-page scene with Carrie Coon, and it was just she and I. And for us, we felt like the less we talked about it, the better we were going to be in that moment.
Have some spontaneity.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Keep it
yeah.
natural and loose.
What about you?
Me, all different kinds of techniques. But I was thinking about it. Yeah, I do use some technology. I don't know if you guys know, like the Rehearsal 2 app.
No.
That thing is write that down. It's incredible. It's this app where you can like download your script into it, and it comes with, instead of having to buy a bunch of highlighters, you can actually highlight, with your finger and choose your color. It's sort of very exciting.
But don't you ever worry it's going to get hacked or something when you have scripts and they're confidential?
No,
I
that's
don't
only
like to
if you
put
like
them
on
into
a reality show.
Well, that's interesting.
Nobody hack regular people.
No, yeah, right, exactly. That never happens. No,
You
no.
can catch him walking down the street. You don't have to hack him.
I always
No,
feel this
exactly.
huge responsibility to the script when it arrives
Sure.
and it's confidential. I really worry about my sides. I worry
Yeah.
about everything where
Yeah.
it goes, that I'm
You
not
have a
going to be the
shredder?
leak.
You have a
No,
shredder?
I don't have a shredder. I give them back.
Oh, you do?
I
Oh, wow.
pass them all back, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, sides.
No,
and
I am
everything. I don't
very,
wanna be the guy.
And with the
wanna be
show,
the
I
lead.
mean, there's so many, like, you know, it is definitely a. They have an app themselves actually that they use called Synchronize, and it's sent in a confidential
Yeah, I
manner.
hate those, man.
I know you have a password and you have to like go in there and download it, and
I
it
don't know
was.
how to download all that shit. I'm
I
like
know.
clicking on the computer, and
Yeah.
it's like it won't download. You need to update your Adobe. I'm like,
Yes.
man, I don't know about this shit.
And now you have to sign
that's why you
non-disclosure
couldn't hold a
agreements
job
with
at
other
McDonald's.
There you go.
And that's why you couldn't hold that job. You had to become an actor.
I ain't got time for all this shit.
See, I'm on a show about
Technology,
hacking and
yeah.
technology,
Yeah.
so I have to.
You gotta know how to do it.
At least I have to pretend that I.
I'm like, ain't nobody in the hood worry about no scripts.
How
That's
else
right.
do you use the technology?
Well, you know, I mean, you can record. That's really what I do a lot. Is I'll record the dialogue. You know,
Help
this
with
is all just the
memorization.
technical
It's good for
aspect of
learning,
it, of
right.
course. But
I could imagine that.
and in this particular situation with this show, it's like I mentioned, it has been prepared and sort of laid out, and Sam does have the whole sort of through line figured out. And in fact, when we finished the first season, they took about a month off, and then all the writers got together and they wrote out the whole season. So when we came back to start shooting again, we were given like a phone book sized script, you know, for the whole season, and we did over the course of 2 days a read through of every, and I had never been in a situation or experienced anything like that. And
Real.
That's more like the English model because they often
think-
will write the whole,
Yes.
6 parts or 12 parts,
Right,
8 parts.
right.
They'll have it written beforehand.
That's the devil.
and you
not
have
that
one,
thing of writing it on the
director
go.
also, right? Or do you usually just have one
Often-
director?
Well, I'm from Australia, but I know in England they often
sorry.
will
Yeah.
have.
It's right next door.
Yeah, right, sorry. Yeah.
Same airport. They'll
My
all
bad.
drive
Related.
I'm
to-
glad we cleared that
They all
up.
drive to the same airport.
But I think they often will have one director for the whole thing or 2 directors. They don't
Yeah.
switch directors every week.
Right.
Like
I
here.
think that
takes the fun out of it.
That's definitely challenging.
Yeah.
I mean, but like on this, we're doing, you know, a scene on one day from episode 202 and 204 and 207.
Oh, it's
like Game of Thrones.
It's all of that.
my
Yeah, I know. See,
Wow.
I'm enjoying the crap out of it.
Well,
I'm loving
good.
it.
I'm glad.
Good on me.
Good luck for
Clearly
you,
not
kid.
something you'd be into, but it's definitely been a unique challenge.
I would get killed off.
And we have
Is
the
that
same.
because they're
and we have
using
the same
specific
director.
locations and they're trying to shoot out
That's
a
right.
location?
So they're
Right.
shooting it more like you would a movie.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's basically what they're doing, and we have one director, Sam Esmail, is doing them all.
Right.
This particular season, I don't know what he's going to do next season, but
But it's like a 400-page movie.
pretty much, yeah.
Kill me off, second
Yeah,
episode.
yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah,
Introduce
exactly.
me, blow me up, put
Yeah.
me in the trunk.
I know. No, I
Be
was.
careful because that job at McDonald's is not still open.
That's right. Yeah, they filled that. That's gone.
Kill
Yeah,
me
that's
off,
gone.
dog.
I think you'll
How
be
do you
fine.
prepare though?
How do I prepare? I have all different ways of preparing, and I never know which one is the one that's going to work the best. I do all different things. I do backstories. I really like research. For this role, I did a lot of research, and I
It's
actually.
always nice when you're playing like a real life person. I mean, yeah, for you, like to have that, all that wealth of information.
Yeah, and just to be really cluey on the world that you're working in, to feel really au fait with that. And on this, they had an advisor who was in the CIA before, and so I got to speak to him a lot on the phone, which was one of the most exciting things of the job. Yeah, like he would run me through stuff in the script. I would ask him questions about everything.
Yeah.
He was
Did he give you any
fantastic.
like secrets or any?
No,
Oh,
he's too
Do
cool
you
for
like
that.
working with advisers?
Yeah, I do.
Do you?
I do.
You guys had to have an advisor.
Yeah, oh, definitely, definitely.
I do. I feel like you get good information. A lot of times I find little physical things that I might infuse into the character just from being around a person.
Because
that
otherwise you tend to
actually-
borrow from your own craft. You're borrowing from other movies or the way you've seen things to actually speak to people who are the real deal.
Yeah.
I
Really
take
helps
it
you
you
know how
don't
it
like
works.
that. That's a,
It's
You've
not
obviously
about
been
me.
advised
This is
badly.
about y'all and how y'all work. I'm here as a vessel. I'm just listening.
do you like working with advisors?
I do. I mean, I love talking to people who are actually sort of in the world or the milieu, and I love reading fiction and nonfiction and I sort of feel like things go in ways that you can't control.
Right. No.
So like something will inspire you, or you'll dream about something, or something will stick, and several days later you'll remember something. It's a very imperfect,
Yes.
Science, like how you.
I'm with you.
come
It's
to
really
character.
osmosis.
It's like,
You don't know what is going to be the thing that ends up being the real sort of creative launch point.
So Jonathan, we were wondering how do you prepare? I'm so glad you asked.
That's great.
You know, I go back, because now with this 7th or 8th year, whatever it is, with Mike, and it's Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould's child. But if something appears there that I go, Mike would never say that. What are you doing? He said, and trust me, they go, yes, Mike would say that. I go, no, Mike wouldn't say that. I said, yes, Mike would say that.
Yeah.
And
Have you ever won that?
Only in the rarest of times, because I really do trust him. But I mean, my preparation, what I hate is that you start with a character and then you're still doing the backstory 20 years later. You're still going, oh my God, get out of my head, get out of my head.
Yeah.
And is that true? In some cases, that is true. And I love Mike's backstory because Mike has been hard and a lost soul a long, long, long time. And I just want, at some point, I want the beast to be touched. You've never seen him, you've never touched him gently. And he would collapse under that treatment.
Oh my God.
He wouldn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how I prepare. Whatever that is.
I think TV is boundless. Like, what's interesting, 10 years ago, it was, the perception of television was very different. Because I remember having this conversation with my agent, and he was like, you can't do TV. Like, if you get TV, you won't be considered a real film actor. And I was like, well, shit. It's just so interesting how that's evolved and changed with basically cable television and then leaking into and infiltrating network television. I think it's interesting now that all the people who were making the movies we grew up watching and loving are now working in television. So they're making television shows in the way that we grew up loving and watching film, because films have evolved into a market from, 7 to 24. And if you're 25 and older, they don't really make movies for you anymore. You just have to go to, Shrek with your kids and hope they throw in 3 or 4 adult jokes so you can enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to, so now with the advent of surround sound systems and 90-inch televisions and palatial 42-inch deep couches with overstuffed pillows.
Oh, yes.
I never go to the movies.
No.
Once I snuggle up in them pillows and turn my TV on,
You're home. That's it. It's comfy.
me and Jack can watch everything.
That's right. Yeah. Jack, your son? Is
That would be Daniel.
Daniel, I was about to say,
sorry.
Me and my homeboy Jack.
I see.
Man, we go watch,
I thought you had a nice son named Jack, but no.
cousin of Johnny.
And the stains on that
innocent
couch.
guy
You
ever.
don't ever want to see the
Oh
stains
my
on that
God.
couch.
What a naive guy. I love it.
I just feel like TV takes more risks than film is able to
Absolutely.
at the moment.
Now.
It feels like film has gotten very safe. It's very compartmentalized about what type of things will be successful. And whereas in TV, since all these new platforms opened and all the cable TV, they're saying to writers, go out there, write the most different show that you can write. We don't want you to write another show that's the same as something else. Write something that's really original and different. And so there's been this spate of amazing shows.
And you can tell a story, especially now with cable, that's richer and more developed because you're 10, 13 hours of TV opposed to a 2-hour film.
But what's interesting about that is now I find myself, like, there's not enough space on my DVR.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm recording 5 or 6 shows. My wife's recording 7 or 8 shows. My 6-year-old son is recording 5, Mickey
His name
Mouse,
Jack? What-
Disneyland Playhouse, like everything.
I better get this straight.
And then Jack got his own show
Jack's
on
got
there.
his own thing.
So by the time,
no time for you.
it's a full-time job to try and watch everything you want to watch on television
very
now.
true.
It's literally 60 to 70 hours a week if you want to see everything. Working, you go away for 2 months, you come back, you're like, damn.
Yeah.
Now I got to catch back up on Game of Thrones, or I got to catch back up.
You know what? No, you don't. Because look, Peter won the Emmy, No, you don't.
No, you don't. But that's what's interesting about television now. It's so saturated. You know, there's no way, you know, you find
watch
yourself
everything.
on the subway or on planes with your, you know, your tablet just trying to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
It's,
And I don't watch anything on a tablet or.
You know,
I watch it on my phone. I watch it at the gym.
Oh,
I watch
I
shows.
wish
I
I
just
could
want
watch
to
it
see
on my
everything.
phone.
Oh, I can't do that.
Yeah,
No,
that drives
I
me
can't.
crazy.
It drives me, yeah. When I'm watching dailies and I have to watch it on the computer.
Yeah.
it really does feel like it's become like the independent. You know, it's so hard to get independent movies made right now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
financially. So,
Yeah.
like you were saying, I mean, there's all these different platforms for all these phenomenally talented people to come and you know, tell their stories again.
And do what
It's all
you
about the
want to
writing.
do. Do what you
Yeah, it
want to
is
do
all
in the
about the
way
writing.
that you want to do it. I feel like, you know, because television is made for such a specific, or film is made for such a specific demographic now, that with television you can
almost like a
reach
science.
a broader market.
Right.
You know, you can reach the, you know, niche that your show
Is specifically
is
geared
specific
towards.
for.
Yes, yeah.
And I think now we've reached the next level of television with this O.J. Simpson movie.
Oh, the,
You know, the American story or
American
whatever.
Horror Story.
People versus OJ?
Yeah.
People versus OJ.
OJ.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
everybody's guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
For it
yes.
not to be
And-
called
Yeah.
American crime.
yeah.
People versus OJ.
Don't get it wrong. People versus OJ. But to get a cast like that in such a small,
Unbelievable.
you know, number of episodes, now the sky's the limit because you know people will buy into it.
that's right.
So now you can do the
doors blown off the hinges.
blown.
That's
Whatever
it.
you want to do,
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it.
go
So
nuts.
I'm interested to see in the next 3 to 5 years
Yes,
where that is going to evolve us to. You know, because now like, everybody, you know, you have Hulu, you have Amazon, you have, it's not just HBO and
Netflix.
Showtime and Cinemax.
Well, it's
anymore.
still going to be, it's still be the writing, and
Absolutely.
Definitely.
and now I am going to sound like Father Time, because I was doing television in the '70s and the '80s, and the trail of cocaine that went from everywhere, and pretty much if the camera didn't fall over, you printed it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't mean disrespect to some of the wonderful directors that I did work with, but they were beating their heads against the wall. There was a time when even actors so spoiled that nobody would put a clamp on them at times. And I don't get that feeling from, well, I'm going to say this, from people your age. I feel a lot more dedication. Dude, I got you by what, 35 years? I feel more dedication to the craft. And that's a huge sweeping generalization, but oh my God, the writing is so much better
Yeah.
in so many places. And I don't see how in 5 years that'll change. Great writers will be great writers if they're still attracted to it. Every once in a while when I'll speak at a university, that all of a sudden I'm finding that the writers are more interested in television than they are in film.
Definitely.
I think what's going to change though in 5 years is that the broadcast networks are going to start following the model of cable, and it's not going to be 22, 26 episodes. I think it's going to be 10 to 13
Exactly.
episodes.
Because
yeah.
you can get you for 3 months and
quality
shoot
also.
10 episodes
But
and you out.
I think with the 22 episodes or more, I think if you follow the show throughout all of those episodes, there's about 5 or 6 episodes that you could tell they're just trying
Right.
to write it.
Well, they're still bringing the pages down, and now we won't give them up. But I mean, friends of mine are going where a woman they handed her 3 or 4 pages at 4 o'clock in the morning, or say, no, we got to do this or whatever. You don't do that. It's not. You might pull it off once, but the scenes show. It's not good.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, my first film.
Are you next?
I think so.
Yeah, I think you might be.
I'm next.
Was Coming Home, but then probably the thing that really helped was Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh yeah, dude, the greatest.
That was the
That's
best.
hilarious.
Oh my God.
And shooting Mikey in the back of the head. And
Mikey, yeah.
and Jimmy and I just had lunch together the other day
Wow.
too.
Did
And
that lead to 48 hours, or was 48 hours before that?
48 hours was before.
48
It
hours
was
was
before.
Before,
Before
yeah.
Beverly Hills
But they're
Cop.
both. It's 1981, 1982.
Yeah, sure.
A long time. And that was great. And Walter Hill, I'll tell you about 48 Hours very quickly, though. That scene, Nolte could not be more giving. I'll do this as quick as I can. It was first day of shooting, show up. There was no line in the scripts. Jimmy Keene and I go upstairs to shoot it out with Remar, right? And that's pretty much there. Nick comes up to me. He has this tome of notes, and he says, I've been riding around with the San Francisco Police Department for 2 weeks. And I went, oh, mother of Christ. This is some guy that's going to go back every time, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Never saw him again as soon as the camera started to roll. But he said to me, he said, we have a history. He said, we're friends. So thus came, Al, how you doing? How's the wife? Mean as a snake, which is something I heard in my youth.
Was that written?
That's my ad lib.
It's your ad lib.
And then, which I don't believe in most of the time. Guys who try to be cuter than the material, it just
Never works.
grates me.
Yeah.
But that whole thing got set up, and then I come down the stairs dry firing after I'd been shot. And I said to Walter, what if I'm so out of my head I come down dry firing? And Walter said, yeah, let's go with that. Let's try that.
Yeah.
And so thus becomes, God damn, you don't give it to him, Jack.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
And that was Nick Nolte's generosity. And if anybody could have been more of a professional, I don't know how.
It's awesome.
Yeah, anyhow, that's my start.
Wow.
Well, who's going to top that?
Yeah, it's like, way to go, Chris. Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
All of you are going to top it.
Well, my start. I mean, I was quite young. I was 9, and I don't know. You ever hear of the Joe Franklin show?
Yep.
Yeah, Joe Franklin. My mother, Mary Jo Slater, casting director. She was a guest on the show, and I
And
was
a
this-
great casting director. Excuse me.
Yeah,
for
there you go.
interrupting.
Fantastic.
Sorry.
You know, great with actors.
I think we've all met your mother at some
Oh yeah,
point.
sure. No, and I've sat in on many auditions, and you know that's.
She never cast me, but we cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. You know, crazy. And so yeah, she was the guest. He was doing his show, Joe Franklin, and he saw me. I was standing by the cameras, and he said, "Hey kid, you know, why don't you come in and you know, just sit next to your mom?" And I said, "Okay." And the next day we got a call from this director, Michael Kidd.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And he called me in, and I did I auditioned for The Music Man. He was looking for Winthrop, you know, to go around with Dick Van Dyke for a 9-month tour.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
so
great.
there I was. So I was singing Gary, Indiana, and the whole thing. Yeah.
Did they do that with Fifth?
Yeah, exactly.
Gary, Indiana.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, let me
would've
say it
bullied
once
you.
again. Yeah, that was what I did. Yeah, for 9 months.
Was Dick drinking?
Well, I was so young. I don't know. I don't think I knew what.
Because we're talking, Dick Van Dyke is one of the great guys in the world.
Greatest guy
and he's
ever.
been dry forever.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he'll be the first to tell you.
Sure.
he had to
No,
stop.
he has some experience in that, but I think with this, I do recall him being a phenomenal professional, and he was great to work with. I mean, look, I was 8 or 9 years old.
Right.
I didn't know what the heck was going on, but I knew it was fun. I knew I enjoyed it. I loved going to the theater. I loved being up there on the stage, and then it became like a family, particularly you know, doing this thing for 9 months, traveling around the United States together. That when it came to an end, I thought it would never end. I thought we'd be together forever, and you know, when it came to an end, it was like, oh boy, that was a shocker. That was a shocker, but I continued.
It hurts when a play ends.
Oh, it's terrible.
God, it
yeah.
hurts.
But then I had the Radio City Christmas Spectacular. I followed it with that, I think. So
The
come on.
Radio City Christmas.
That was it. I thought I had.
Rockettes?
Yeah, the Rockettes. Oh man.
Were you a Rockette?
And I was 12. So yeah, the Rockettes were something I was quite obsessed with.
I think we're like the same age.
No.
I mean, yeah, I do.
I don't believe that at
yeah,
all.
No.
Yeah.
25.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
You're not 25?
Yeah, I'm 25. Well, then there we go.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
same
we're
age.
perfect. Yeah.
I started out doing extra work.
Oh.
my mom always let us do whatever we wanted as far as the arts were concerned. And so we were taking, we were taking all types of lessons. And at one point I was even taking accordion lessons.
No.
Yeah.
Great.
Wow.
Don't tell anybody else
thing.
that.
The whole, when it sat on my lap, I was like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
don't want to do it. She said, you said you wanted
That's
to do
right.
it, so I paid for this class.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
So 2 accordion lesson classes. I did extra work on different strokes and silver spoons.
Wow.
And then I was doing a lot of plays. Betty Bridges, Todd Bridges' mother, was my acting coach.
Oh, wow.
And she had an acting school and put on a lot of plays. And Marla Gibbs came to one of our plays and saw me in a play, and I started doing a play at Marla Gibbs Performing Arts School.
Oh, man, great.
And the play was called 227.
Nice.
And and then when they bought the play, NBC bought the play to series, everyone that played a role that was close to a character that they were actually going to use in this series they were able to audition. So although I played like a character that was like the little fast girl that lived around the corner, I got to audition for Marla Gibbs' daughter, and 12 auditions later,
Jesus.
I know.
I hate him.
I know. I got the
Network
part.
tests and things like that.
Network
The
tests
whole
and all
thing.
of that.
Yeah, go in and face the jury.
Yeah.
Man, amazing.
And every time I would, back then when I was auditioning, and you'd be on a callback and you thought you were getting close, it seemed like they would always fly Tisha Campbell and Tashina Arnold in. And I'd walk in and I'd go like, oh, these
Come on.
gods.
That's great. Yeah, couldn't they miss this one?
Well, I got this one.
Yeah.
They flew them in and I got it.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Well, I feel like I'm a bit of a late bloomer. I was a theater actor for a long time. Out of college, I was in Philadelphia, and I slowly moved my way back to New York, and I went to graduate school and got an MFA, and then I was doing regional theater, and then I was cast in Mad Men, which really just went to my career. It just sort of shifted it. And we shot the pilot in New York, and we brought the show, the series shot in LA. So that's the first time my feet touched the ground in Los Angeles. I was already in my mid-30s. And so it kind of ties into what television has had to offer me. I feel like I never saw this town until I was in my 30s. So movies were sort of like, an impossibility. I really thought I was like a stage actor until I died. And then all of a sudden I was in a totally different medium, but sort of, I just fell into this cable television world and met a lot of really interesting material and really interesting artists, and that just kind of shifted my focus entirely.
I have a question though, and maybe I just keep my big mouth shut, but most of us started on the stage. And why would you ever think that film was something that you would never do?
I don't know. I grew up in New York. I felt like, and in a way I still do, feel like the stage is where you are most fully expressing yourself as an actor in a way, because it's such a full body experience. And I don't know, I had a lot of romantic notions about it. I find the work on camera just as challenging and just as stimulating, but at the time, and I also just couldn't imagine living in LA. I was such a New Yorker. I thought I would hate
like
it.
a live audience too. That's
It's the
also-
The live
instant
audience,
gratification of it.
I
That's what gets me.
didn't know what it would be like to work in front of a camera. I didn't know if I would take to it, because I know plenty of brilliant stage actors who don't translate well. It's not a given, I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that they don't translate well, but the intimacy of what the visual of a great story through that lens is just, I'm in love with that. And I know what it's, we were talking about doing the Woolgather with 2-character play. You get up and you feel it in the visceral, all da-da-da-da-da-da. And I still go back to those moments on a screen that are so intimate. And yeah, anyway.
But for me,
On
when I
and
was
on.
growing up and my parents took me to see plays,
Oh, I know.
those were those moments
I
for
know.
me.
Yeah.
It was like I don't know, seeing
mean-
Vanessa Redgrave on stage and being like,
Oh my gosh, yeah, I
God,
know.
I
Yeah.
want to be that. I
Yeah.
want to do that. I
It's
want to be that kind of
transporting.
animal.
It is. It does. Oh gosh.
My situation was ridiculous. I was a bad kid, and they wanted to put me on Ritalin. And my mama came to school and said, "Nobody putting my baby on Ritalin." And my 4th grade teacher said, "No, he's a smart kid. He just needs something to grasp his attention." So I auditioned for this talented in theater program. And it was after school every day, and I had this amazing teacher, and she made me act like a tree and a rock and do all this stuff. Then we did this puppet play, and it was great, and we did all the school plays. And then one day, me and my knucklehead friends are getting off the bus from school, and we see a table of food outside the projects that my friend live in. We're like, yo, it's a table of food, right? So we look around, it's just like food everywhere, like cups, water, everything. So we go over, and we just start eating food. And they're like, "Hey kids, get out of here. You got to go to set. Come on, come on." So they grab all 3 of us and bring us into the projects. And they were shooting Dead Man Walking with Sean Penn and Susan Sarandon. And
That's great.
we're running around in the scene and doing all this stuff and having a great time. And then they asked us to leave. And we run back, get some food, bounce, get on the bus, go home. And I was like, I'm an actor.
That's it.
And I started
Declared.
doing plays, and I had a little awful public access TV show with my cousin, and we had a local rap label, and we was doing our stuff. And you know, I went to the local arts high school for acting, and I got in a little trouble, so I had to leave New Orleans. And I went to North Carolina School of the Arts, and after North Carolina School of the Arts, I got into Juilliard. And when I got into Juilliard, I was like, nah, this is impossible. There's no way.
What'd you audition with to get into Juilliard?
My audition was different. They told you to prepare 2 monologues, classical,
Yeah, yeah.
contemporary,
Always have.
contrasting, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes total. But I was like, nah, I'm you know, if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna prepare. So I prepared like 10, 12 monologues. And you know, I was from New Orleans. So my Shakespeare monologue was Friends, Romance, Country. Right? So, you know, Shakespeare just always was my dude. So, but I spoke with a New Orleans accent. So for some reason they found that funny. And when I was doing the monologue, I was like, you know, when others have cried, you know, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made with sterner stuff. And everybody in the room started laughing. Like it was a comedy. And they were just dying laughing. So they were like, Michael Kahn at the time was over the program. So he was like, you have another monologue? You have another one? So my audition lasted for about 45 minutes to an hour of me just doing monologue after monologue after monologue. And I realized, you know, they auditioned 2,500 kids and took 20. It wasn't that I was the best actor. It was just I didn't shoot myself in the foot from beginning to end. I know I belonged there. I knew I deserved a spot at the school. And I'm looking at the other cats, and they're in the hallway stressing and, you know, on this and this, that, and the third. I'm like, if I don't get in here, I'm going to still be good. Okay. This is just a stepping
But thank
stone
God for
to
those
being
10
good.
monologues. You talk about preparation
Exactly.
and going in.
Right.
And shame on them. You know, I'm sorry. I don't like it that they laugh. But what I was, you know, good for you, man.
Yeah.
No, it was funny. It was 1 year of bliss, 2 years of hell, and 1 year of fuck you.
But
And that last year of
Yeah.
fuck you has defined the entire 15 years of my career. You know, because I worked so hard, you know, and while we were in school, it was the checkoff slot. And me and my friends, Michael Wynn, Rosemary Andrus, Tracy Toms, all of us wrote this play called Up Against the Wind about Tupac. And they wouldn't cast me as Tupac, so they cast me as Biggie. So Biggie's a big old black dude. So I was like, oh, I can act the shit out of that. Sure. You know, so I listened to Biggie, did the speech and all this stuff, and everybody's like, wow, dude, you're good. And then the dude who played Tupac graduated. So I was like, we had a reading for Showtime. And I said, give me an opportunity to play Tupac. So the writer was like, we don't have anybody else, so I guess so. And luckily enough, I rocked it. Like I rocked it to the point like I was getting high fives, right? So the Jim Nicola from New York Theater Workshop was there. He saw the play and wanted to move it off Broadway. So third year at Juilliard, wanted to move this play off Broadway. I'm the lead of the play. So they come to me and they were like, well, you know, this is the checkoff slot. I said, no doubt. And they said, well, you have to make a decision. Either you do Up Against the Wind and play Tupac off Broadway, or you stay here and you do Chekhov. And I said, which Chekhov play we doing? They told me, I was like, what's my role? I was like, I'm not even, and okay. I was like, I'm doing Up Against the Wind.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I was doing the
So-
musical Hair first year back when I was a stage manager, and I lied to get my equity card. But I did that audition, and there was a decision to be made. I thought, man, I'm making money.
Kick me, right. But
I got one quick question, and excuse me for that. You said I might not have been the best actor, but I was prepared for all that. And it touches something in me at this age, almost 70. There are a lot of great actors out there. There are a lot of great actors out there. And if you throw your lot into this, we're lucky. We are lucky, beyond lucky, beyond lucky.
Extremely.
I'm sorry, excuse me for interrupting.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I went through a drama school with a whole lot of really talented people, and there's probably about 4 of us still in the game. I came through, my father was an actor. He was a theater actor mainly, and I used to hang out at the theater a lot, and I had other friends when I was like 8 or 9, and we would write all our own shows, and we watched Bugsy Malone when I was a kid, and we became really inspired by that, all the kids acting in
Scott
it.
Baio.
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
loved
God, that
this
is
movie. And
one of my
Jodie
favorite movies
Foster.
all time. I know all the
Loved
songs.
it. So we wrote all these shows basically about gangsters, and we had plastic cigars and special outfits, and we used to put them on in the theater. And I thought, this is the best party ever, but it's going to end. When I'm going to get to a certain age, like 15 or 16, where it's just not going to be acceptable to do this anymore. we would have commiserations sitting around going, well, we'll have to get serious sometime. We can't keep. And then, of course, we all ended up in the business, so writing and acting, and so that's where it all really started.
I went over there. Jimmy Sharman directed Hair.
Oh,
in
right,
Sydney.
yeah, Jim Sharman, yeah.
I took I restaged the production to take it to New Zealand, and a long time ago. But I worked for Harry Miller, who they threw in jail.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Ticky Tack.
Yeah.
I just love that you were inspired by just that you're a kid, you see something, and it triggers some new level of creativity, and you're inspired by that.
Right.
And we would do everything. We would make all our own costumes,
Right.
and we would put it on for
That's
other
right.
actors. Friends of our parents would come and see these
Yeah.
shows.
Yeah, fantastic.
We were audacious.